Hey, it's your Auntie Annie. I'm back again with another Jamaican recipe for you. Today I'm going to be doing one of my favorites, and I know a lot of Jamaicans' favorite. It's stew peas. Now, I don't know the history of stew peas, but I know that between the late 60s, early 70s, it became very popular in Jamaica. Actually, my mom, this is one of the dishes my mom did not know how to cook until she met my dad, got married, and my grandmother, she was the one who taught mommy how to make stew peas. And then, of course, mommy became queen of the stew peas. And everybody in the family can tell you that she made the best stew peas, right? So it's kind of a one-pot dish. It's very easy. It's a little, the prep takes a little while, but honestly, once you throw everything in the pot, it'll take 2-3 hours and it'll be cooked. So because I'm cooking a kind of family style today, you're gonna find that I'm making a bigger portion. I will, when I put the video up, I will put it for half or less than half of what I'm cooking. So three of the main ingredients are red kidney beans. Always pick the light red, which I find is better. And then we'll have pig's tail, and I'll have stew beef. So I've gone ahead and I have videos of this, of how I season the beef and how I soak the pig's tail overnight. So like I said, once you get everything in the pot, it's just a matter of letting everything cook, and then you go in and season. We'll also be adding some what we call spinners, which are little dumplings, and I'll show you how I make those and how it's added to the recipe. So the first thing to get everything started, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wash the peas, make sure there are not any little things in, sometimes you find some tiny little stone things. So I'm going to wash them, put it in a pot with some cold water. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to then sink the peas, which is very important, with some more cold water. Once it comes back to a boil, then I'll add the beef and the pig's tail and then allow it to cook. So I'll be back in a few minutes and I'll show you how we get started. Okay? So this is how we're going to season the beef for making the stew peas. So I have all the seasoning I'm going to use, which is onion, scallion, garlic, little Scotch bonnet, pimento seeds, and a little bit of sugar, salt, garlic powder, black pepper, some Pickapeppa sauce, and just a touch of soya sauce. So I'm going to go ahead, add all these ingredients. I'm not going to use a lot of salt because the pig's tail, which is going to go in the stew peas, is going to have, it's going to be salty, so we don't want to add too much salt, but we just want a little touch, maybe 1/4 teaspoon. Go ahead and add some of our Pickapeppa sauce, which is great for stews. So just give it about maybe a tablespoon. And then we're going to probably a teaspoon of, I'm using the dark mushroom soy sauce. So just go ahead and we're going to rub all this in and get it ready. So what we'll do, the night before, I'll season the beef, and I'll also put my pig's tail to soak overnight in water to get rid of some of the excessive salt. So when I'm ready to cook in the morning, I'll then go ahead, start boiling my peas, and then add the meat and the pig's tail to it. It's a dish, stew peas takes an average about 3.5 hours to cook. So it depends on how long the peas take to soften and the meat to cook as well. So that's it. So we'll come back when we have all the stuff ready to assembly. Okay. So step number 2 in the preparation of the stew peas is soaking the pig's tail overnight. So all I've done is I've given them a rinse. I put it in a fairly large pot or pan, and then I've gone ahead and filled it up with water. So when I get up in the morning, I'll pour the water off, I'll put a little bit of water on there so that it has to retain some salt, but it can't be too salty. So soaking it gets rid of a lot of the salt. So by tomorrow morning, we'll start the other process in dealing with the stew peas. Okay, so here we go. Empty all that peas in there. I'm going to turn on some cold water. So I'm going to wash it. Make sure any little grit or dirt comes out. And we're going to go ahead and strain off that water. And you'll find any peas that kind of have any imperfection, it'll float to the top, so you can remove it. So once I've washed this now, I'm going to then put it in the pot with some cold water and go ahead and get this started, okay? Okay, so my peas are washed. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. So then I'm going to go add water up to maybe about just a quarter up of this pot. It's a large pot, so I'm going to go ahead. I'll show you when I come back how much water I put in. Okay, so I'm going to go, it's cold water that I'm going to be adding. So I'm going to do enough to sort of cover the peas. And if you can see, and then I'm going to get my fire on and get it started. So I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once all the peas come to the top, then I'll add additional cold water in there and then get that boiling, then add the meat and the pig's tail. Okay? Okay, so we're back. And if you have a look, come close, you'll see that the peas have floated to the top. So this is where we take our cold water and we're going to cover it. I'm going to put just a little touch more. Just give me a second. So once you'll see the peas will sink down. So we're going to bring this back to a boil, and then I'm going to also be boiling up a kettle of hot water, and we'll go ahead and we'll add, once it starts to boil, we'll go ahead and we'll add the beef and the pig's tail. Okay, I'll be back when I do that. Okay, so I'm back and the peas is boiling. You see it? I'm also going to go ahead and stir to make sure that none of the peas are left on the bottom, because you don't want it to stay and probably get burnt, because it will affect your taste of your stew peas. So I also have a pot of, a kettle of boiling water that I have set. So, you know, when I put everything in, if I need to top up with a little bit more water, I'll do it. So I'm going to go ahead and add the pig's tail now. Oh. So once the pig's tail is in, I'm going to give it a stir again. I'm going to let this come to a boil a little bit first, and then I'm going to add the beef. Okay, so I'll be back when I get that done. Okay. So now we have the fire's boiling. We're going to give it a good stir again. Make sure nothing's stopping on the bottom, and then we're going to go ahead and add the beef. So you're going to add all the juice, everything from the beef in here, and give it a nice stir. And we're going to go ahead and bring this to a boil. I might have to add a little bit more hot water to this, but I'll see. Looks okay so far. So once the beef boils, sometimes you might have a little scum that comes on the top, and you can easily just scoop it off and things. So I'm going to bring this to a boil and come back. And then once we have this, we put this on a medium fire. It generally takes a good 2 hours to cook. And then after it's cooked, we start to add the little spinners and the seasoning and get it finished, okay? So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a check. Everything is boiling lovely. I'm going to give it, make sure I'm feeling like at the bottom that might be some things are sticking, so make sure you stir right from the bottom down, because you don't want anything to stick. There's a slight little scum here. Doesn't don't look too bad, so I won't even bother to worry about it. But I'm making sure that at the bottom nothing is sticking. My fire is now medium. For me, that's the number 5. Just make sure if there's any slight scum, you can just remove it. But I think this should be okay. So we're gonna go ahead, and this is gonna cook now for about 2 hours till the meat and the beans and the pig's tail are softened. Okay, let's just make sure we get the rest of that off. And so from time to time, if you need to add water, which might need to add a little, you always add some boiling water, okay? So let's give it another good stir, and you can just let it cook. Okay, so we'll be back when it's almost cooked, and then I'll go ahead and show you how we go ahead and season up the pot and add the spinners to it. Okay. Okay, so I'm just checking on the pot. Everything is looking good. Make sure nothing's stuck on the bottom, and levels are good. So we're just gonna let it boil. Like I said, it'll take about 2 hours for the meat to be cooked. So that's it. We're gonna come back in a while and show you the finished when it's cooked and what's the next step. Okay. I'm back. I'm gonna show you how I make these little, what we call spinners. There are some small dumplings that we use in Stewpeas. So I'm gonna, for the size pot that I'm using, I'm gonna use probably about a cup and a half, maybe. For you, if you're doing it for a smaller half the thing, 1 cup should be good. I'm going to use a little bit of salt and a little bit of margarine, just to make the texture of the dumplings soft. So I'm going to go and measure out. I've measured out half a cup already. I'll go ahead and put half cup more. Okay, and that should be it for that. And I'll go ahead and just a little salt, maybe about a pinch of salt. Don't want it, because like I said, you're going to get a lot of salt coming from the pig's tail already, so you don't want to add too much salt. And then I'll go ahead and add about a tablespoon of margarine. So I'm going to work the margarine in the flour, kind of knead it together, just like if you were doing some kind of pastry. So we're going to go ahead and knead it in, and then we're going to go ahead and add water. So what I do is that I add just a little water at a time, because you don't want to over add at the beginning, because if you do, then the batter won't come out right. So after I've sieved it, all the margarine in, I'll go ahead and start to add a little water at a time. Pause. Okay, so I've combined the margarine in here now, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my water. As I said, I just add a little bit at a time. Don't over add it, because you don't want your dough to be too soggy, right? So just stir it in, stir it as much as you can, and then we add a little bit more water. I'm going to use my hand now and make sure all the flour is incorporated into it. Get all the flour off the spoon. So it's not going to be a sticky dough, so you have to make sure that you work and make sure all the flour is combined. Sometimes you might, if you put too much water in there, you might have to go ahead and just put a little bit of flour on top. So you see how I pulled at it and it was kind of sticky? That's a little bit too sticky, right? So the dough. And I'm probably just going to add a little bit more flour. Let's get a little flour out of here. And continue to work it. So once I've worked it all the way in, and I think it's okay, I'll leave it to rest, and then when I'm ready to add it to my stew peas, I'll show you how that's done. Okay? Be back in a minute. Okay, so my dough is all ready. If you see, it's not sticking, pulling on my hand anymore. So I'm going to just cover this with a piece of paper towel. Is fine, a little damp paper towel, and I'll leave that until I'm ready to add it to the stew peas. Okay, that's done. Okay, so I'm just like checking on the progress. As you can see, everything is looking good, cooking well. I haven't had to add any more water or anything, so it's fine. It'll all go down. I'm going to reduce this by quite a bit. So every 20 minutes or so, you just give it a stir, make sure everything is cooking and it's not sticking anywhere in your pot. Okay? Okay, so we're just giving it a check to see where we're at in terms of, oh, this looks good. So what I'll do is that take a piece of the pig's tail, check, still have time to do, take a piece of the beef, still needs more time. So it's been about an hour and a half since I've put it in. Doesn't need any more water yet, everything is fine so far. We're just gonna let it continue to cook and we'll be back when it's almost ready. Okay? Okay, so I'm back. I'm just again checking on the progress, and you can see how it's looking good. Just verifying we have both that's getting cooked. See how it's going in. The beef is almost cooked, and then for sure we need to check up on the peas as well, right? And that's almost cooked. So we're coming along nicely. Don't need any more water or anything in there. Everything is fine. I'll get all the other ingredients that I need to put in to help season it up before dumping in the dumplings in. Okay? Okay, I'm back. So I've checked that the meat, the pig's tail, beans, red kidney beans, they're cooked. So what the next thing I'm going to be adding now is I'm going to be adding our little spinners. So what you're going to do with that is just pinch off a little piece like this, and you're going to roll it in your hands like this, so it makes it a little dumpling like this. So I'm going to go ahead and put them in, and then I'll come back. Okay? So the important thing is keep stirring your pot, because once you put the dumplings in there, it's the same thing. You want them to cook and they'll rise to the top. So you're going to go ahead, pinch it, drop it in. So I'll be back in a few minutes once I have all the dumplings in. So I'm going to put in my last dumpling in. So you want to make sure that you continue stir it so that the dumplings don't settle on the bottom, because the flour will, like I said, you know, it depends on how your pot is. It might be that it'll stick. So I'm going to let the dumplings boil for about 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, sorry. And then I'll come back and then I'll add seasoning. Now my seasoning is going to be a medium onion, 2 green Scotch Bonnet, some about 10 or 11, 12 pimento seeds, green onion or scallion, and I've smashed them. And I'm going to add about just a small handful of thyme. So I'm going to use a little bit of sugar, like maybe a teaspoon, some ketchup, some hot pepper sauce. This is very important. It's one of my mom's ingredients. Black pepper, garlic powder. So I'll be back in a few minutes when the dumplings are done, okay? Okay. So if you have a look here, you'll see that all the dumplings, when they start to cook, they all rise to the top, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to taste for salt. And the consistency is very good. Usually sometimes if it's really too runny, if you added too much water or whatever, sometimes you have to take some of the peas in a strainer and mash them to help to get it the consistency you want. But this one, it's perfect. So I'm going to taste this. Good. Nice. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Now my stove, I've put it down to about 3, so just about medium low. So then, here are some of the ingredients that I'm going to add. So one of the things that my mom always add is ketchup. So I had a little bit of ketchup left in this. I added a little bit of water. So it's usually about half a cup to a cup of ketchup. So I'm going to stir this. Stir it. This probably can take a little, just a touch more. And then another secret ingredient of Mom is she uses this Jamaica hot pepper sauce. And we use a good amount of this. All over. And we'll put a little garlic powder. And we'll put some black pepper. And I'm going to put just about half a teaspoon of sugar. Just a touch of sugar. Kind of enhances the flavor, as I always say. And that was one of the things. So I'm going to stir all these ingredients together, and I'm going to go ahead and give it another taste. It has a beautiful color. Nice. So at this time I'm going to give it another taste. Make sure. It's nice actually. I'm going to use a little bit more of this. And you know, it's kind of, for me today, making this dish, it's brought back a lot of memory of my mom, because like I said, she was a queen of stew peas. And it's the first time that I'm really cooking it, that I never had her on hand to say, Annie, it's perfect. Or Annie, it needs a little bit of this, that, you know. So for me, it's kind of a bittersweet day. But Mom, I think I'm doing you pretty proud. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to add everything else is on here. The onions, thyme, scallion, and our Scotch Bonnet pepper. And I'm going to turn my stove down to about 2, so it's on low, and I'm going to let it continue to cook probably for about 10 minutes more. And I'm going to give it a final taste to see if it needs, I think it needs just a little bit more black pepper. I can kind of eyeball that a bit. And okay, so we're going to make it boil down a little bit more, and I'll be back when I'm completed, and I'll show you the final product. Okay, so I'm going to add probably about a tablespoon of my margarine. It's about a tablespoon, but it's looking really nice. I must say I'm looking forward to eating this. So I'm going to let it just simmer down for maybe another 5-7 minutes. Then I'm going to turn it off and let it sit for a little until later when we need it. Now, usually with stew peas we make white rice, any kind of white rice you want. You know, I use long grain rice. Then you can go ahead and fry plantain, because the plantain is kind of key to eating stew peas, because you have savory and the sweet together, which is a combination that Jamaicans love a lot. But anyway, I'll be back in a few minutes And I think we're just about done, so I'll show you the final product when I turn off the stove, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna turn off my fire now because with the electric stove, it'll still be bubbling for a few minutes more, right? So you can see how delicious this looks. So before serving, we're gonna reheat it and get it ready with some rice and things. So I'm just gonna turn it off now and let it just simmer for about 3 minutes more before the heat dissipates from the stove. All right, so that's my stew peas. Hope you guys will try this recipe. It's, like I said, it's one of our favorites, okay? All right, take care till the next time.